exist among us, and sometimes they win. Even the devil was an angel once. The world has its own rules, and these rules are not human. Some of us seek answers to the origin and existence of cryptids and the unexplained. Join us as we venture beyond the known and accepted boundaries. Welcome to our nightmare. I think you're going to like it. Folks, good evening and welcome to Phantoms Monsters Radio, where we explore the unexplained live on YouTube. I'm your host, Lon Strickler, coming to you within a cannon shot of the hallowed fields of Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. Thanks for joining us. Now, Phantoms of Monsters Radio channel was made possible by you liking, subscribing, and sharing our programming. And super chat donations are essential for us to continue offering you our unique content. So your consideration is very much needed and appreciated. Now, tonight, we kind of got a impromptu get-together. My original guest caught COVID and the whole family's down, so we had to restructure things. So I got some team members coming on tonight, and hopefully we can have an interesting discussion and talk about a few cases. And look, if you've got a question in the chat room, feel free to put it in caps, and we'll see if we can answer it. Now, joining me tonight is Manuel Navarrete, Tommy Carroll, and Vincent Richardson. So, guys, thanks for coming on tonight.
Thanks for having us, Lon.
It's my pleasure.
So, before we get started, Manuel was talking about, now Manuel and Tobias were on with me last week talking about the Chicago sightings, and apparently Manuel found out about some trespassers out of O'Hara, I guess, this week. So, Manuel, why don't you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, well, I have a lot of friends who still work at the airport, and I work in cargo with a transportation company. So they were telling me, one of them was telling me about an incident where they had they were a group of teenagers out there, paranormal investigating, somehow found a way to get on to the property. And when you hear us talk about other side of the fence, there's a huge, 12-foot fence that surrounds O'Hare Airport. And we're talking razor wire and everything. On the other side is federal property. So they somehow found themselves on the other side of the fence, and we're out there taking pictures and doing an investigation, but we're about 150 yards from an active runway when they were found out by maintenance people. And that really led to a lot of a pretty bad situation for them, because they were quickly surrounded by security. They were quickly surrounded by TSA. And they luckily did not get arrested, but they were told, that you are now banned from this property. If you're caught again, near it, you will go get arrested. So not a good thing. We always you always hear us talk about, researching responsibly. That means, staying on the right side of the fence of an international airport. These people don't play games. It's a security risk, and it's not worth it. I mean, you're looking at a lot of legal troubles if you get caught. Least of which would probably be getting shot by the police. But it was an interesting story, and it was just some of the things that sometimes we have to deal with, especially when you have so many people now coming onto it to the airport. I know during the summer when I would go out there and do investigations, I would usually live stream it to the team, and there would be all sorts of people out there. You'd meet all sorts of other investigators, but at the same time, you also started seeing an increase in security. These people do not play games when it comes to protecting their airport. If you're going to do it, please be responsible about it. There are places you can that they'll be cool if you're cool about sitting there and taking pictures and video, but you got to know your limits.
Well, you were mentioned earlier about somebody was out there with some drones too, and that's definitely a no-no.
Oh yeah, over the summer they were flying drones over the fence, and
Yes.
that prompted an immediate response. So,
well, they're not playing. I mean, they've really stepped things up, and I imagine, I've been hearing about this people trying to go out there and find out what we've been getting reports of, and I mean, I don't know if anybody's been locked up, but I know they've been escorting them out of the airport and warning them. So, we do have a question from James West. He wants to know if there's any new dogman sightings in Pennsylvania, and unfortunately, nothing new. I'm working on a few right now. I've got some up in northeast Pennsylvania, up near Pottsville. But other than that, we haven't heard anything else. I think if we do, we will, and I'll be assigning it to people on the team to go into it. So there you go, Tommy. We get one out your way. You're going to be looking into that.
Good to me, because I got nothing out here right now.
So, and Tommy lives out in Somerset County, so he's not too far from Greene County. So you might have to meet James, because James had 2 encounters out in Greene County. Now we do have a case out in Greene County where we're waiting for the witness to get back to us, but that was a Bigfoot encounter on the guy's property, and I think there's also some paranormal activity going on at the house as well and on the property. So I guess when they get back to you, we'll look into that then.
Yeah, because it sounds really interesting.
It
and
does.
It's an old house. It was built in the 1700s.
Yeah, well, hopefully we get some, you and Bernadette can look into that and see what's going on there. Yeah, James said, yeah, I'll give you James' contact. You and him can look out together if you want to. And I might ask James if he wants to come on the team, to be honest with you. He's out there in Greene County, and that's a nutty place out there. I've had a lot of weird sightings out there over the years. We had an encounter out there that was in Rosemary's book with the witness called the Dark Walker, and I don't know what the hell that was. It could have been a Bigfoot. It could have been an upright canine. I don't know, but apparently whatever it was shot and killed. And that's all I have beyond that, other than what the witness told me. But yep. So I don't know. So anybody else got any questions in the chat room? Feel free to come forward and post it up there and ask us. We'll see what we can do. Like I said, this is kind of impromptu tonight. We weren't really ready for any of this. I can say we've been looking into a few paranormal investigations. Tommy and Bernadette and Jennifer were with me at one here in my hometown. In Hanover, Pennsylvania, we had and I don't even know what to make of that, Tommy. That was kind of crazy. But this person had contacted me about 2 or 3 years ago, and apparently there's something going on in the house, but who knows? I mean, I didn't get much of a sense of anything going on there, though. I know Bernadette and Jennifer were picking up stuff, and so I don't know what was going on there. And then, of course, we had and Jennifer took care of this. We had a case down in Charleston, West Virginia, and she pretty well took care of that. She was down there for 2 days and assessed what was going on. So, we do get things done around here when we get out to the cases. So, or somebody let us in. That's the problem. When you do this type of stuff, you always run the risk of you're getting ready to do this, and you're making contact, and then the witness ever comes back, and it gets to be frustrating. So
That is part of it, yeah.
yeah.
Absolutely.
James just came back and said, I talked to Kevin Paul. He was the co-author of that book with Rosemary. He seems to think that the Dark Walker was a Bigfoot. Well, that very well could have been. Yeah, I wasn't sure what it was. The witness thought it might have been a Bigfoot. So, yeah. Okay, so let's see. Vincent, you got anything?
I don't have anything new. I was wondering if you might want to talk about the new book that's coming out here on the horizon.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I got a new book coming out probably this coming week. It's titled The Meme Humanoids, Modern Myths or Real Monsters. And it's about this, for the most part, this pale crawler humanoid phenomena that's been kind of rearing its ugly head the last several years. And I will say Vincent did all the artwork, or most of the artwork in the book. And the cover, we looked at the cover a couple weeks ago, and I was very satisfied with it.
I was very happy with it too.
Yeah, and hopefully the book's going to do well. So when that does come out, we'll have more on that. But it should be there's not really a whole lot out there about this phenomena yet. I've been lucky enough to get witness accounts coming into me, and have looked into a few of those, and we really don't know what these things are. I titled "Meme Humanoid" for the simple fact that if you start looking at the meme humanoids on the internet and people talking about them, just like Slender Man, and that there are people who actually believe that they are encountering this creature that was developed by someone on the internet. And,
yeah, they just had a case not too far away from here where two girls tried to kill a third girl
sure,
to sacrifice him to Slender Man. And
that was up in Waukesha, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, and those girls did time. I think they're both out now. But they went after their friend because they said the Slender Man told them to kill her. And, that kind of put the Slender Man phenomena on the map. And, but there have been other cases where people have swore that they've seen this thing. And, I've received cases or people contacting me saying they've seen something very similar. So, of course, we've got other strange sightings, especially out in the Sierra Nevadas, which I call Penelope, or what they call Penelope, and that's in the book as well. And I even go as far back as the Dover Demon and the Fresno Night Crawlers as well in this book. So who knows what all of this was and what it is. I mean, are we seeing something that's a thought form or a tulpa of some type? Are we actually seeing the nexus of some type of humanoid being, or possibly something similar to a human? And where would it be coming from? Is it something ultra-terrestrial? Is it something that's coming up through some type of portal or something? It's something we just don't know. So, that's why I presented the way I did, for people to think about what, and maybe start asking some questions and, developing a dialogue and see what this phenomenon really is.
Absolutely. It's been reported all over the United States. In Missouri, we get accounts in the Ozarks. It seems they pop up wherever there's caves, and it's an interesting phenomenon.
Well, it's been, we've been, Canada and the United States seem to have the heavy concentration of these sightings, but, we have had a few over in Europe, and I think the best evidence that we received so far was from a videotape that was taken in Poland.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I've got some. I've actually put some of those screenshots in the book. So yeah, they're it's an interesting subject. Hopefully we can at one point, and I think we are going to be doing a humanoid roundtable in a couple weeks or so, or whenever. And yeah, I think we can get into that a little more deeply and talk about the book more. But look, I'm open for all kinds of theories on this thing because it's just really a weird thing, and it's probably one of the most weird things that I've encountered as far as cryptids or whatever you want to call these things. So
And
Yeah,
usually,
it seems like there's several things going on, several different kind of things. Yeah.
Mhm.
well, you're talking about the paranormal, you're talking about cryptids. There always seems to be a fine line there, where a lot of stuff is connected. It seems like every case we get, every big case, just like with even Chicago, there seems to be something connected there besides just these beings. We've got UFO activity, we've got other humanoid activity.
yeah. Usually, when I heard about pale walkers, like when I first heard about it, and the first thing that came in mind was, not the rake or what they call it on the internet, but there's a phenomenon in the northern part of California, dates back to like Native American tribes, but of these walkers that they see, they look like walking trees, basically.
Mm-hmm.
The long-legged, stiff walkers. There's a video of one that looks like it's a tall one and like a young one, but these go back all the way to Native American folklore.
Yeah, they look similar to what the night crawlers have been called. More modern times they saw them in or around Fresno area. That's how I got that Fresno night walker, night crawler, or whatever the hell they called it. And but yeah, I have had somebody tell me that it does go back to some of the indigenous people in that area, northern California. So and I did make mention of that in the book as well. So who knows what we're dealing with. We got a question from The Apocalypse. Which cryptid do you think reveals themselves to us the most? Bigfoot, dogman, ultra-terrestrials? That's hard to tell. I actually believe Bigfoot, dogman, winged humanoids. I think they're all ultra-terrestrials. To be honest with you.
Yeah.
The evidence that we've been getting more and more of recently, especially since we've been investigating out in Chicago, it seems like this whole cryptid thing, for the most part, though I do believe there's some indigenous beings like in Bigfoot realm, but there's fleeting sightings all around. They don't seem to have places where they dwell at, especially here in this part of the country, or in the upper Midwest and in the East. We just don't see a whole lot of physical evidence. It's like they just disappear. Or how are they doing that? I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
I think it's based on like geography. I mean, you have a lot of Bigfoots, like, Bigfoot pretty much all over the United States from coast to coast. But think about the dogmen. You see a lot of those, like, Wisconsin has a lot, Pennsylvania has a lot of dogmen sightings. In the Southwest, you have a lot of sightings of like skinwalkers.
Right.
Those are more and more prevalent out there. Ultra terrestrials, I mean, honestly, you could pass one on the street and never know about it.
Sure.
Same thing with how many accounts have we ever heard of like extraterrestrials like grays that are able to morph themselves, to look human, or even what they call hybrids. Try to think about how many people like in like different parts of the country or in different parts of the world see different things. I mean, in Japan, you probably have a lot of like, there's a word for them, but they're demons. But otakus, I believe is what I might be wrong, but it's different forms of demons they see And some of them have been venerated for centuries. Um, you have in India, you have all sorts of different, um, creatures. In Indonesia, you have something called the orang pendek. That's
Uh-huh.
like their version of the Bigfoot. Um, Tibet and all the northern countries of the Himalayas have you know sightings of the Yeti. You don't hear about anything much coming out of there except for like Yeti sightings, or even Australia, you have the Yowie.
Uh-huh.
Um, so it just really depends where in the world you are. Um, I know growing up back home, in Texas, you saw a lot of, you know, we didn't have so much Bigfoots, but you had all sorts of other things, flying creatures in the sky. You had things like the Llorona, you had things like the Lachusas, um, that were out there,
Uh-huh.
and a lot of, also like what we were discussing earlier before the show, a lot of like big cat sightings, you know,
Uh-huh.
are seen out that way. So it just really depends. To me, honestly, on what shows up the most is depending on where your geographic location is.
Oh yeah, um, and it doesn't seem to end. It seems to be something always pops up too.
Hmm.
Uh, I don't think of course, we get all kinds of strange things that we just can't explain. But I think as time has gone on, I'm getting more and more convinced that there seems to be a starting point for most of this stuff. Is it a specific dimension or two
Right.
where they're coming from? Oh, and by the way, Andy K, thanks for your donation, much appreciated. Yeah, I mean it's what the fact that we got this information from the unseen ones and the ultra terrestrial, which they define themselves as, and they're telling us that a lot of the cryptids on our Earth plane or come or originate from where they are. I'm starting to think more and more that maybe this rift or whatever that opens up, there's a lot of stuff that's going in and out, and why we're not getting the physical evidence that we really should be getting for something like this. Uh,
Right.
but we're just getting nothing.
Hmm.
So, so let's see here. Yeah, I. Oh yeah, James West is saying that. But the dogman are still coming around his house, and I know we had James on before. He told us about the encounters he had. So, well, I know he mentioned to me before that there's still stuff going on. The Apocalypse, thanks for your donation, much appreciated. Now, Anastasia asks, "Have you heard or seen that translucent creature? If so, what do you think it is?" I guess you're referring to the Glimmer Man. Uh, I don't know what the hell that is. I believe that it may very well be a cloaked being. There have been people who have told us who believe that they believe it's a cloaked Bigfoot. We did receive an image of kind of a half Bigfoot, half Glimmerman being out at Salt Fork State Park sometime last year. So was this one of these beings coming through or evolving or what? I don't know. Uh, Bruce Maccabee, who lives out in Ohio and has property out there, and who is a Bigfoot investigator. He and his wife had an encounter with one of these things out there as well. So, and that's what he believes it is.
Hmm.
So maybe the Glimmer Man is some type of is it like the Predator or an alien? That I don't know. Maybe I'll say that. I mean, I'll say that first of all, but I have no real idea what it is. I
Is
wish
it
I did.
possible? Is it possible like ultra terrestrials are mimicking more flesh and blood creatures?
Well, that very well could be too. I know out there where you're at, your place, you've had a lot of activity out there, and I mean, what are we really dealing with? It just seems that I don't know. I wish I did know. I wish I had better answers for this type of stuff. But
That's why we do this.
yeah. I mean, there's one thing we can be sure of: things are getting weirder and weirder all the time, and
Absolutely.
maybe we'll start getting some answers. I mean, that's what we're here to do. So
And
I
I
don't know.
mean, there have been a lot of sightings. I remember reading a report one time. I believe it was out by you, Lon, in fact, by Gettysburg,
Uh-huh.
of the lady who was watching what she thought were aliens,
Uh-huh.
and the aliens were translucent.
Uh-huh.
And the problem was that the aliens weren't even noticing her. It's like, you know, Einstein's prove, there's, if you look at his theories, he has shown that, there are parallel universes. There can't, there are. Maybe there's times when these fluidic universes sometimes touch and we're glimpsing into their realm. I mean, this lady was stating that these things looked like they were walking around a control panel of some kind,
Uh-huh.
and they were translucent, but she could see them. And I believe they were like right outside of her window, basically. But these things didn't even notice her. They didn't even pay attention. They were there for a few minutes, and then it faded away. How many times have people said that they have seen you know different kinds of creatures, and that the creatures didn't notice them? How
Uh-huh.
many times have people said that they've been
Mhm.
driving down the road and they see a restaurant that they go into and it's a phenomenal service, great food, and next to nothing on price. When they go by there again, a day or two later, that place is gone.
Uh-huh.
Um, you know, it could easily be time slips. It could easily be, um,
Right.
parallel universes touching together. It could be any kind of, creature. Um, there's different creatures from all sorts of, different, you know, different cultures and everything that people talk about, that come in the guise of, of being able to disguise themselves, make themselves invisible. Um,
Right.
there's a lot that, for as advanced as we say we are, there's a lot we don't know about. And we're constantly being surprised by what we discover.
Oh, I agree with that. I mean, I'm surprised by stuff all the time. I mean, I'll get an account come into me, and I'm sitting there reading this thing, and I'm thinking to myself, first of all, is anybody going to believe this or even give it any consideration if I post it up on the blog? Because sometimes you get stuff that's just really out there. But I don't know. I've had a few encounters in my time. Uh, I am an intuitive, so I have seen some weird things. And you talk about this woman that may have been around Gettysburg. That wouldn't surprise me at all. I mean, there's just something about out there that I think it is conducive to weird stuff altogether. And you just get that feeling you go out there. That wouldn't surprise me at all, because I've
Mhm.
seen some really weird stuff out there too. So,
I mean,
anybody got any thoughts on that?
I think the ancient indigenous people around the world, they knew about this a lot better than what we do now,
Oh, I think so
and
too.
and I think that's why they would set up next to these holy places, and because they were watching things like this happen, in these dimensional rifts.
yeah. I mean, how many places have we heard of that? Happening with Vince lives right down there, not too far away from a place in Illinois where they have mountains set up, and those mountains have shown that they're conjunctures of ley lines.
But Cahokia,
Yeah, Cahokia.
yeah.
Yeah. So many strange places. Not just the pyramids. Machu Picchu is another one. How many
Absolutely.
places have we seen where ley lines converge that we're seeing all sorts of strange and weird phenomenon?
Right. UFOs,
Mm-hmm.
spirit activity, cryptids.
Hmm.
Bernadette asked, what do you think that's to happen with these missing 411 cases? Boy, I tell you, that's a loaded question because I think about that all the time.
Same.
I think it's a number of things. I think for the most part, what we're dealing with are portals that people are either just going through without noticing it, or they're being pulled into something like that so quickly that people have reported somebody being beside them and all of a sudden they're gone.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that most of these are reported in areas like national forest and such, I don't know. Well, what are your thoughts on that, guys? Oh, by the way, I want to thank Peace for their donation. Thanks a lot.
Well, you guys don't mind, I'll go first. I mean, missing 411, a lot of it happens like in national parks, in the wilderness area. I honestly think it's kind of a 50-50 mix. Um, there are things going on out there. There are things out there in the wild that's happening. For the most part, um, I also think part of it is people who just do not know how to be out in the wild.
It's very possible.
You do not go wandering around in the middle of the night in the forest. You don't go,
Sure.
set up your tent next to trails that are infested with bear. Sometimes people just make dumb mistakes and they're just, never heard or seen from again, or they fall into a ravine. And, some of these places don't see, there are roads out there that probably people haven't driven past in years, even though they're maintained roads, but it's so remote. Ask anybody who's been, who's worked with a U.S. Forestry Department, as a fire watcher, they can go months without seeing somebody out there. It could be that way. It could also be people are inherently stupid. I mean, I hate to say it that way, but how many people go out there, and they encounter a Bigfoot, and the first thing they do is, start opening fire on it. These things have also been shown to be, most of the time they leave you alone. But if you mess with them, they've also been shown to be very aggressive toward people who, harm them in any way, shape, or form. How many reports have you read? I read as a kid, or all of us read, where somebody tries to harm them, and next thing you know, there's a bunch of them out there throwing rocks at them. I read a report where a gentleman was something kept messing with a logging camp, so he stayed out there, and when he opened fire, I guess he crawled out there to try to stop them, thinking it was vandals, and they found him the next day, just basically broken in half, and whatever it was that would come into this camp was picking up, full barrels, 55-gallon barrels of hydraulic fluid, and just throwing them yards. These things weigh, hundreds of pounds. How do we not know that somebody meets out for something, or they decide, oh, hey, there's a little fairy ring right there. Let me jump into it. Portals exist for a reason. Things exist for a reason, and sometimes people just wander in, not knowing what they're getting themselves into, find themselves on a one-way ticket somewhere, and they're just added on to that missing 411.
Yeah, somebody asked about Steve Rowley asked about the staircases out in the middle of the woods. I read about that many times. I mean, I don't know what the hell that's all about.
It's a weird one.
Yeah, I know the one search and rescue guy who had talked about that. He did some threads over Reddit, but he said he actually went to the top of one of those staircases one time, and he didn't really say much of anything. He said it felt weird. He probably went up there and got, I don't know, just felt something weird, but maybe. I don't know. But I've heard about that before, so that is strange. And I think Tommy would agree with this. You got a lot of people out there that are hunting that shouldn't even be carrying a gun, let alone out in the woods. Like I remember the first day of deer season one year here in Maryland. We were on Savage Mountain and out in Green Ridge, and oh my God, 2 guys got shot within a mile of me, and it was like there were people everywhere. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's
And
one of
and
the
like
reasons why I don't do it anymore.
and like Manuel was saying, I read an article. Oh, it was a couple months ago. There was uh, a rifle hunter in Colorado that had been missing for like 4 years,
Mhm.
and a bow hunter just this year found him, because there's
Really?
some places that are just that remote. You get back in and nobody goes there.
Yeah, they get lost.
Yeah,
Mother Nature doesn't cough them back up until a long
I
time
know.
later.
Right.
Yeah, there are.
Well, I tell you, the 411 thing doesn't really surprise me for the most part. After working with David for all those years, David Eckhart, and some of the stories he's told me about people that just suddenly are killed, die, or whatever, and they dispose of them or what. And that doesn't surprise me. I mean, is that what's going on? Well, maybe. I mean, I'm not saying that's what's always going on, but I think there's a lot of things out there that we just can't explain. And I don't know. Anybody got anything else to say about that? Anybody got any more questions? Just put it
I
up
will
there.
say that the missing 411, some of the weirder cases, it has to be portal or aliens or something, because I mean, when they just disappear within seconds of turning around, and I mean, that just doesn't make any sense. There's not a Bigfoot grabbing them or anything like that. It's like the earth swallows a person up.
Well, I mean, it is weird. I mean, I have talked to David Pilates about that in the past. And I will admit I got him pissed off at me at one point because I was saying I thought it was a Bigfoot doing it, and he swore up and down that wasn't the case. But anyway, we calmed down and talked about it a bit. But as time has gone on, there are just too many weird things that have happened in a lot of different scenarios, and the fact that portals are opening up. And look, I've seen a lot of crazy stuff on the internet, and from what people have shown me, and I'll be honest with you, not much surprises me anymore. I'm not saying I'm buying into everything, but there's some really weird stuff out there.
Well, I mean, think about. I just finished reading a really good book about Appalachia, and some of the things that go on out there, and how some of the author was saying as kids they were taught never to go near dilapidated buildings because for that reason you could very well easily disappear. She talks about how she they found a dilapidated building as kids. They looked in and the house was pristine, right out of the pages of the 1950s. Somebody gets in there, they get they get that little curiosity um streak in them. They go in there, they're never seen from again. I mean, some people don't exactly there are some things out there that don't exactly play by our rules. um One of the first things you learn in paganism or in witchcraft, that 3 rule 4 rule thing does not exactly apply to everything out there. um, there are some places where you go and step into a portal. They're not going to let you come back out.
Mm-mm.
How many times where people don't get it? Curiosity really does kill the cat.
Mm.
Or at least makes you go missing and you'll never be found again.
Well, I know Tommy's raised around the mountains for most of his life, I believe, and I'm not unfamiliar with the Appalachians between here and down south, and there's a lot of weird stuff goes on. I've told this story before. My family was raised. Part of my family was raised down in western North Carolina in the Rockies, not the Rockies, the Smoky Mountains, up near Roan Mountain, and people used to talk about the wild man and all that stuff up there for years. I had an uncle who, and I'll say it, he had a still. I mean, he had a very big still, and he used to bitch and moan about the wild man up there tearing his still up, and he didn't like him being up there. And I heard that story growing up, that kind of weird stuff. And, it happens. And there's something about Roan Mountain, because I've had a couple of stories on the Tennessee side about that place with people seeing Bigfoot and other types of what they call hairy men or wild men and such. So, the Appalachians are pretty bizarre, but that's the way it is. I mean, I guess anywhere you go, you got to run into a lot of this weird stuff.
Seems
So
that
you
way.
think about how old they are. I mean, millions of years ago, the Appalachian Mountains were aligned with like Ireland and Scotland. Those are the
Yeah.
same mountains from millions and millions of years ago.
Yeah.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what happened long before we were ever recording stuff?
Well, yeah, really. I mean, if we had even an inkling of what was there then, as far as the fauna goes, I mean, yeah. So, I don't know. I just know that it's kind of bizarre, when this whole thing, as far as, wait a minute, has anyone claimed to have gone through one of those portals and come back? Yeah, I've heard that. Well, look at David. David's a perfect example. He's come back several times from that. I don't know if the situation is different with him, because that may have been, that was to do with some type of non-terrestrial being, extraterrestrials. As far as other beings go, and if that's the case, I guess it has happened. I have, people talk about time slips, and that could well be the same thing. At some point they've seen into another dimension or kind of crossed over real quickly and come back. So yeah, people have told me that before. So yeah, I believe people have gone through and come back. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, look at the reports of people who've encountered or been abducted by what they call reptilians.
Mm-hmm.
Most of them come through portals.
Mm-hmm.
They don't come in ships. They
Mm-mm.
pop in, and next thing you know, they're there and they're grabbing you. And um, I honestly think, yeah, how many people have said that they've encountered, stepped into a portal, and the Fae immediately kick them out. This
I've
just
had those before too. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, there's a lot of places that we don't understand. A lot of things that people have, may have slipped into and seen it. How many stories of, you know, things like, time slips, are way too common in paranormal investigation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I get a lot of them. I really do. I get a lot of time slip stories and counts. I've had people. The counts like where somebody will, and it's weird. People will go outside, pick up the newspaper, and they look in the driveway, and the car's gone. And then 5 minutes later, it's back again. Stuff like that, where things just disappear, and I've heard all kinds of weird stuff like that, and even inside of homes where things disappear suddenly. Like a whole half of the house would disappear or turn into something else, and it would change back. Even like people telling me that it turns dark all of a sudden, like it's from night to day and day and night within minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how do you explain that? That's just outright weird.
Yeah, we've had stuff here in our house that just gone for weeks, and then there it is. Where did that come from?
Yeah.
right out in the open.
That happens here all the
reappears
time.
suddenly.
Well, knowing your house, that wouldn't surprise me, Tommy. A lot of, yeah.
It's been incredibly calm lately, thank goodness. But
well, that's good.
It's been plenty weird.
And I know Vincent's had some issues at his place too. So,
Yep, that's very true.
So folks, you got anything else? Put it up there, and we'll talk about it if you want to. Psychic mediums create ports, which are small portals and to somewhere. Well, I think to a point that's possible. I have heard that in the past. I don't know. Is it done unconsciously, or is it something they consciously do? Maybe you can answer that for me. I don't know that. That's interesting. Any Indrid cold sightings? Oh God, not lately. You know, that last thing that we had up in New York was kind of bizarre. And I'll mention what happened. It was up in Hartwick, New York, and a friend of mine, who actually was a client at one point, has been doing some investigations for me. He lives up in Queens, New York. But anyway, he had a girlfriend, or a friend of his, who lived up in Hartwick, New York, and she got on the horn with him saying that she had seen a winged humanoid outside. And when it happened, her phone rang, and the name that came up on the phone ID and the caller ID was Indrid the Cold. And when she answered the phone, the person on the other side of the phone said not to report what she had just seen. So how you figure that? I don't know. He went up there to investigate it. He said there's a lot of weird stuff going on in the house. But yeah, I mean, I've talked to Raymond Keller about this Indrid cold when that happened again. And his thoughts are that he believes that this Indrid cold being, who he believes is an extraterrestrial, may still be around, may still be involved with government and such. And I don't know. Raymond Keller is he's one of the best ufologists that I know. He knows everything. I mean, the history of ufology and all kinds of stuff. He's the guy I went to right away as soon as I heard that, and he believed it happened. And so.
But how many of those have really just, if you read the report, how many of those really mirror what a Men in Black report is?
Well, very closely. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, very closely. It sounds just like a Men in Black encounter, where somebody has seen something, and within minutes or before they even get a chance to report it, these guys show up and say to be quiet about it. Well, I don't think it has anything to do with anything government, but I think it's definitely extraterrestrial or ultra-terrestrial or whatever. Yeah. And James says about Valiant Thor, same thing. Now, that story is a little different. This guy was supposedly working with the Pentagon at some point, supposedly from Venus. That's what he said he was from. And
Right.
But he was a flesh and blood being, and he was here for a while, and then he was gone. Who knows what all this is all about? That Valiant Thor thing fascinates me anyway. And I think Raymond's going to do a report on that at some point. I know he's writing a book about Dr. Frank Strange's, so I think he may go into detail about the Valiant Thor thing at some point as well.
Cool.
So, anything else, folks? Do you guys have anything you want to talk about?
Gentlemen?
I was just thinking about something we were talking about earlier about, seeing things, out of place. And it kind of gets me a little bit, brings me back to like the Mothman, sightings that we're investigating.
Mm-hmm.
Chicago is the third largest city in the nation.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe it's also the third populous city in the nation.
Mm-hmm.
And people just don't realize how many people are here. I could draw a circle 5 miles wide and it'd be in the millions.
Mm-hmm.
And yet we're seeing things here that are just, UFOs, USOs, so many of these winged humanoid sightings. You know, things from the paranormal of all sorts. We have, alien sightings. We have, you know, cryptid sightings of all sorts. This whole area is just ripe. And how many populous cities are like that? I mean, think of like Detroit. Detroit has a there's so many reports of that little what
The
they call
little
a
red,
corpse. Yeah, it's love to scare the hell out of people in the park.
yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, think of how many things happen, and a lot of it, I think, is also it ties in with the question with about the psychic mediums. A lot of it to me seems like it's summoned. I mean, how
Mhm.
many people do you think that were probably involved with the sighting, the rash that we had with the little village sightings of the
Mhm.
winged humanoids?
Mhm.
You know, I quite honestly think that that was had an occult tie-in to it.
It very well could have. I mean, and you and I talked about that from the very beginning. Was there something to do with the culture, or with with what people believe, the belief system in the Hispanic area?
Hmm.
We had about 10 altogether in Little Village, 10
Yes.
sightings, and who knows who else didn't even mention it. So yeah.
And I also think a part of it is because, lately in the last like 5, 6 years, you know, paganism, occult, Wicca has really taken off in popularity. And part of it is, I mean, I hate to say it, but people who don't know what the hell they're doing,
That is so true, Manuel.
Yeah.
they are
That is
just,
so very true.
they're not disciplined or they're not following what is taught. Most of these people are probably doing it because they're reading a book off of Amazon somewhere and not knowing. I mean, how I belong to a few pagan groups online, and we get people that we have a name for them. They're called fluffers.
Mhm.
um and the reason is, well, how many people think, oh, how can I attract the fae into my house? Like, yeah, okay, you got a death wish, don't you? So like, you don't like nice things in your house because your life is about to become a living hell if you do this. How many
Mhm.
people do I see on social media like TikTok? Oh, how to summon fairies? Leave a bowl of this and this at your house. Yeah, like, and attract everything that's you don't know what you're talking about. Um, People using a Ouija boards. I honestly think that's probably one reason how it ended up. Somebody used some kind of magic and summoned something and didn't know how to put it back where it belongs. And next thing we know, we have all these reports coming up because it was concentrated in a very small area. Little Village is, for people who don't know, it's a very Hispanic, with a very predominant Hispanic area in Chicago, but it's not that big. It's not the biggest neighborhood in Chicago, and within, I think the whole Little Village area is maybe 3 miles, 3 miles square, and there were sightings after sightings, and some of these sightings were just different from all this. Some these things were aggressive. Um,
Hmm.
And how many times have we been told by the amputee ones to be called onto this plane is painful to them, and that's the quickest way to get them to be aggressive toward you is because um, you're putting something that doesn't want to be here, and you're forcing it to stay here.
Hmm.
Whether you're doing it, intentionally, or you're doing it because of your own incompetence, doesn't know how to, reverse it or send it home or dismiss it. Eventually these kinds of things lead to these sightings. And God, for the longest time, we had so many sightings pouring in just out of a area that's maybe 3 miles square.
Mm.
Hmm.
Um, James West asked about planet. What we think about Planet X, Nibiru. I'll be honest with you. I don't necessarily buy into the Zechariah Sitchin theories on the Nibiru or the Planet X. Do you guys have anything to say about that?
Oh,
I'll be honest, I don't even know what that is. I've never read into that, so I no opinion
Well, he
here.
wrote a book. He wrote a book called The 12th Planet years ago, and he had a lot of different theories about a lot of different things. I don't necessarily buy into all of that. A gentleman who was a friend of mine, Lloyd Pye, who was the guy endorsing the Star Child skull, and he was also a cryptozoologist and an author, but he kind of prescribed to a lot of what Sitchin wrote about. But I don't know. It kind of seems a little far-fetched to me, but who knows? I mean, there's been a lot of things I haven't really thought much of or agreed with that, I've kind of been proven wrong later on. So I don't know. Do you know, Manuel, do you have any thoughts on that?
I mean, I don't really, subscribe to it. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm looking at it from like a scientific point of view. If there was a
Yeah.
whole planet out there that we didn't know about,
Yeah.
how many times will you see have you seen and if you're on any paranormal group, you see it, someone posting a photo of like what's obviously a reflection of the sun and saying this is planet X. Okay, if it was that close, we'd be in a world of hurt right now. Uh, I just don't really buy it. So unless I know there are things out there that are real, there are rogue planets that are wandering the universe, that's been proven. But to say that there's this planet that just mysteriously shows up and we haven't never been able to find out what it is and all the things that go with it, I just don't prescribe to it.
Yeah, there are a lot of different theories in ufology that I don't know. It's hard for me to understand it, even to grasp. But that was definitely one of them. But I don't even know if I consider Sitchin even a ufologist. He was kind of a theorist. I know he was a historian. He was very much into the Sumerian,
right, the whole Anunnaki bloodline kind of thing.
I'll be honest with you. I kind of take a lot of that with a grain of salt. If I would see more evidence of the connection, I maybe consider it. Now James is following us. Did you see the object that apparently skipped off the sun? No, I didn't. I don't know what that was about, but did you see that, Manuel? You're into the ufology and stuff.
Honestly, when I saw it, I can't say what it was. I mean,
Right.
it could be any number of things. I mean, comets and meteors go routinely around the sun. Some of them, some of them don't, make it. Some of them do. But as far as something that just skipped off the sun, no, I don't see that. The way they showed it on the video, it's got too close. It would be a death sentence. People don't realize just how immense the gravity of a sun is. Even our sun is not even close to being the biggest out there. It's actually one of the tiniest.
No, that's what do you? I mean, it's defined. I don't even know what it's defined at, what level it's at. But is it a white dwarf, or is that what they call that?
No, it's not a white dwarf. A white dwarf is, I believe, a star that has died and has collapsed to the point where it's now just right above a pulsar. But it's it's a dead star. Ours is an active sun, but I mean there are suns out there that are. I know there's one that they discovered that I saw that. I mean, like 10,000 times the size of our sun. Red giants are routinely, thousands of times the size of our sun.
Well, I think we got 5 billion years left of this, and so none of us are going to be around anyway.
Right.
So I guess whoever or whatever's around at that point, they may find out. We'll see.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we're going to go ahead and wrap this up tonight. And guys, thanks for coming on. I really appreciate it. I know it's short notice, but this is one thing we're going to be doing more and more on this channel is offering roundtable discussions, and they're going to be on topic more or less for the most part. And when we do that, it will be announced what the subjects are going to be, and we'll be taking questions and giving answers to the people in the chat. So hopefully this will be a popular thing. We're going to try to maybe do at least one a month, maybe two. So we're already lining them up. So, but we do have guests and stuff coming as well. So yeah, but we're just trying to change things a bit. So again, thanks for coming on, and I will talk to you all soon.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Lon.
Lon.
Mm. Now, if you've had an unexplained encounter or sighting, feel free to contact me through the Phantoms Monsters blog site. I want to again thank Manuel Navarrete, Tommy Carroll, and Vincent Richardson for joining me this evening. And thanks to each and all of you for watching and chatting. And if you made a super chat donation, it's truly appreciated. Your support is what makes all this possible. And please like, subscribe, and share. Now, next week, we'll have Travis Watson back on. And his new book is titled Mysteries in the Mist, Fog, Clouds, and the Paranormal. So it should be an interesting discussion. So you won't want to miss it. So until next week, stay healthy and have a safe and enjoyable weekend. Thanks.